Hi everyone, this is Nicole and I'm here today with a card featuring Heffy Doodle October release stamps and dies to create this sweet little Wanna Build a Snowman scene card. The Wanna Build a Snowman stamp set features these adorable penguins, some snowman building images, a snowman, lots of greetings, really cute and fun. If you guys follow me, you probably know I love penguin images, whether they be cutesy, more realistic, whatever it might be. I love them all. And I thought it would be fun to do one of my personal favorite types of cards, which is a scene card. We're going to start with an A2 sized piece of smooth white cardstock. For whatever reason here recently, I have been kind of playing around with inking Neenah heavyweight smooth cardstock, with distress ink, which if you know and have seen some past videos, I've talked a lot about inking backgrounds with lots of different paper in the past, and I generally prefer Bristol smooth cardstock or a watercolor cardstock because it's more forgiving. You can tend to get some ink blending marks on a regular cardstock, but I guess I've taken it as a challenge, and just if you don't have those kind of cardstocks, if you are like me and you could kind of take stock in Neenah heavyweight cardstock, because I always have a huge amount of this on hand, and you want to be able to ink that with your distress inks, I have been doing a lot of that lately. And how I generally attempt this is by using a lighter hand with my first color especially, and really just getting that color applied using a very light hand to apply it to kind of help not get those ink tool marks. I also start off the edge of the paper and work my way on. And then I will build in the intensity with my second, sometimes third color, and then I'll go back and blend those two together until I get the blend I want. Now I did go ahead and only ink probably 3/4 of the way, and I left that bottom white. That's going to be where we're going to have our kind of quote unquote snow for the scene. You could use a stencil here if you wanted to. I opted not to today. I just kind of gently stopped inking. I made sure that was where the lightest part of my inking took place so that it would gradually just fade into white. I've also got some Picket Fence distress paint here that I'm going to water down. That just makes flicking it a lot easier if you do water it down with a little bit of water. It's kind of a fine line. You don't want to water it down too much because then it's not as bold and prominent, but I really loved this for the falling snow look. You could also achieve this with a stencil. I will be linking to a Heffy Doodle stencil in my blog post that accompanies this video. So if you are looking for a fantastic stencil that has that border for snow along the bottom and snow, they have a fantastic brand new one part of this release as well. I have loved the paint though for snow this season. It's something I've done a lot. Now I did die cut the new Forest Builder dies, which are some amazing trees, 3 different styles, and you can stack as many of these pieces for this particular tree as you want. So maybe you want the tree that I'm going to use is going to have 3 pieces. You could do 2 if you wanted to. There's the other little tree you can see there on the right side of the screen. I'm inking these with Pine Needles Distress ink. Again, this is smooth white cardstock that I'm inking with distress ink. I'm just kind of going with a light hand at first and then blending in darker for that ombre effect after I get the initial inking done. The tree trunks are going to be inked with Gathered Twigs Distress ink. So like I was mentioning, there's the tree that has the 3 sections. There's this other little tree I'm going to ink here. And then I'm also going to ink the other tree style. It comes in a small or a large and a medium. And I'm going to use all 3 styles, all of the pieces on my card because I really want this kind of forest effect of snow falling in the forest, these penguins out here building a snowman and having a great time playing in the snow. So that's kind of the story or the background story as I was working on this card. I know I've mentioned it before, but I am a huge fan of scene cards, and a lot of times that is how I work out the design of the card, is what is the story it's going to tell. I think this probably comes from my scrapbooking days, the story type of mentality, and for me it's just a really enjoyable way to create, and that's where I went with this design. I will ink the rest of the trees. I'm not going to do that on camera just to save some time, but again, everything is in just these two colors of distress ink. I also have stamped the images I'm going to use for my card that need colored in with Hero Arts Intense Black ink, which is a great ink for Copic coloring. I stamped these images on the Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock, and I wanted to mention that here. I had run out a few weeks ago, and I was using my 80-pound weight Neenah cardstock that I had left over. And while it works fine, there's a huge difference, you guys, for me, when coloring with Copics. The way they smoothly go on this 110-pound weight cardstock, the way they blend, it is just so superior to the 80-pound weight. There's lots, well, I shouldn't say lots, but there are several different cardstocks that are approved, I guess, if you want to say, for Copic coloring. And I think we all have to kind of work out which one we like for ourselves. This is my preferred and favorite cardstock. I know I've received some questions lately. When I say smooth white cardstock in my descriptions and in video and on my blog post, this is what I'm referring to. For me, I prefer the Neenah Solar White 110-pound weight cardstock. I like the weight of it for die cutting. I also love, love, love how my Copics smoothly go on and blend on this cardstock. So if you're looking for a fantastic cardstock, I really encourage you to maybe give it a try and see if you love it as well. I am using warm grays in a couple of darker colors, and then warm grays in a couple of the very, very light colors for my penguins. And I'm using a little R00 for the cheeks, some reds for all of the red coloring you can see there, the yellow reds, which are orange, for the beaks and the feet on my penguins, and then a green color combination here as well. Something else I have made mention of in some of my Christmas card photos I have done so far is the fact that for whatever reason, each holiday season when I'm doing my holiday cards, I naturally gravitate towards a certain color combination. Yes, I mix it up here and there with different cards. I'm very much influenced by the product I'm using. However, I have very much gone the traditional route this season with a lot of red and green. I don't know what it is. A couple years ago, I used gold everything. I mean, there was gold embossing, gold foil cardstock, gold glitter cardstock. I was just very into white and gold. And this season, I'm very into the traditional red and green. And I really like it set against some bright blues, like I have been doing for a lot of my backgrounds. So who knows? I tend to just kind of let those kind of themes, I guess, or whatever, let that inspiration take its course and run its way out, because it will be something different later on. I usually just kind of let it, like I said, run its course, because every time I try to change and do something different, I don't like it as much. So I went ahead and went with something that I knew I loved. Plus, I think it works really cute with these, especially white and black critters. I love the red and the green set against this. I think it really shows them off great. We're going to use some blue greens, very, very light blue greens, to color in the snowman, just to give him that snowy feel. It really complements the Mermaid Lagoon, the lighter blue ink in the background. Just kind of like it's reflected upon that snow. It gives it a nice little bit of shading, blending it out with a colorless blender, any harsh lines that there might be. I did not color the whole thing in with these colors, just kind of around the outer edges. We're going to die cut these with the coordinating Heffy Doodle Wanna Build a Snowman dies. And then for the background, we're going to do something a little different. I love to create a decorative edge or border that's not going to take away from the scene. We are not going to lose that outer border that we've created, and you could do this with any size rectangle die. This is one of the new Heffy Doodle Imperial stitched rectangle dies. And what's great about this is we're going to keep the outer frame and the center panel, but it adds that stitching detail all the way around, which is just really awesome. Real quick, before I die cut, I did stamp my sentiments from Wanna Build a Snowman. We're stamping the Sending You Our Warmest with black ink, and then the word wishes is in cursive. I think the script, I love the combination of mixing font styles on cards. And so I'm stamping this with the Mermaid Lagoon ink because I'm a big fan also of kind of complementing the background of the card and pulling that into a sentiment for a two-tone sentiment. I think red would be a nice choice here too, even green, just kind of depending on what you want to do. And anyway, so let's go back to die cutting that frame. And we are going to trim that down, and then we can glue our trees down. Now, I kind of forgot in between the laying out my frame, stamping my sentiment, and I started gluing my trees, which is going to be okay as long as I only glue the smaller ones and the ones that don't go all the way out to the outer edge. So I did 2 of my trees, and I was like, oh, I forgot to die cut my frame. So I will grab that and run it through my die cutting machine here in a second. I very much recommend taping this down in place with a little repositional tape. I usually use Post-it tape. A little low-tack washi tape would work as well. So there we've got our frame, and I just left them together because I think it really gives the overall scene, but it adds that really pretty decorative stitched edge, which I absolutely love. I'm adding some detail to eyes with a black pen, adding detail to scarves and cheeks and highlight with a white opaque pen. These are all just little finishing touches that help pull a whole scene card together. Here is that other tree style. They are so super cute. I love these. I want to mention my trees are all going to be adhered directly to the background. The trees, the stars we're going to put in the sky, the snowballs, we're going to adhere those directly to the background, but our snowman and penguins are going to be attached with foam adhesive. And this adds an additional dimension and really helps pop them up off the background, which gives that illusion of a scene. I'm using scrapbook adhesives, foam adhesive squares to attach these. That's my favorite adhesive, foam adhesive anyway, for this kind of thing. I will be using some Scotch foam adhesive tape to attach my panel. And that's just because it's a lot easier than trying to put a whole bunch of squares on the back of a fairly large background panel here. You could also use fun foam if you want to glue that to the back of your panel. I know that is a really easy way to pop up a panel quickly and easily without having to use foam tape. Now on the snowballs and the snowman, I'm going to take Nuvo Crystal Drops in White Blizzard. You guys probably already know this is my very favorite for adding that sparkly, iridescent, clear finish. And I'm making sure and keeping it only on the snow, not the carrot nose, not the scarf. And this is going to dry completely clear but have an iridescent, sparkly finish. Now the snowman also has these arms, which I am stamping with Lawn Fawn Walnut Brown ink. I'm going to die cut these with the coordinating dies. One thing about my scene is on the left side of the snowman, there's not going to really be room to attach his arm. It would be completely covered up with the penguin. So I laid it actually down on the ground, almost like they're out building the snowman. The name of this stamp set is Wanna Build a Snowman. So while I'm going to attach one of the arms with foam adhesive, I've trimmed it down into a really thin little strip. The other one's going to be glued on top with liquid adhesive, so it appears to just be they're in the process of building the snowman. I also want to mention about this time, I really thought it doesn't look very realistic. There's no snow falling down all over the scene. It's just in the background. So I went ahead and got some more white paint and I flicked it all over. I did try to keep it off my penguins and my images as much as possible, but I really wanted it all over the snow, or pardon me, all over the trees, the snow all over the trees. So it gives it much more cohesive look, like it's falling snow. I glued the outer frame directly to the card with some score tape, and then I'm putting my Scotch foam tape in the center, and we're going to pop up that panel so that it's lifted just a little bit and adds instant interest while still keeping the scene from side to side. In the sky, I felt I needed a little color. I originally did not stamp these stars from the Wanna Build a Snowman stamp set, so I stamped 3 of them, colored them in with some yellow Copic markers, die cut these with the coordinating dies. We'll just run this through the die cutting machine 3 times. You can really get the effect here that the sky needs something. And I also think it needs another touch of color. So the yellow really pulls in another color that balances out the design really nicely. We're going to glue these down with some glue dots. You could use liquid adhesive if you want to, whatever adhesive you prefer. I just did the trio. You could do more if you wanted to. And I finished them with Nuvo crystal drops and white blizzards so they would be nice and sparkly too. We put glossy accents over the beaks and the feet of the penguins so they're nice and shiny. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this holiday scene card featuring Heffy Doodle stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards featuring Heffy Doodle that you might be interested in. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.